I'll start out by just showing you what I do to begin this work. It is similar to the back, but it's easier from the front to grab a hold of the heels and lift the legs up. When you lift the legs up just slightly, if the legs feel really, really heavy, there's something going on in the back. If they lift relatively easy, then it's not as cinched down in that area. And then you can also follow around that fascial stuff and get a feel of how well the hips rotate, if there's a good range of motion, if there's movement with it, without taking it in real big movements. You can learn to hone in on the more subtle anatomy and actually get the job done, I find, more efficiently than sometimes working into it a little more aggressively. As many of you know, my work has been in subtle anatomy for a number of years, and I've seen a lot of really powerful things come out of the work in subtle anatomy. Much better results than I've witnessed with the deeper, more forceful work in most cases. Okay, so we have a little check on the low legs, the hips and back, and how well that's opened. And then if a person is fairly active at what they do and they are more of a sports type person or more athletic, oftentimes these quadriceps get real tight. And sometimes they're a little painful to work into. So that's another reason that as a therapist, it's important for you to be very mindful of what you're dealing with and what different levels you're dealing with. It's been my experience to find that oftentimes some of the tightest restrictions have been unlocked by very, very, very subtle work. And once that gets unlocked, then the depth of the work is much easier to achieve. So we're going to start back again with the foot, because we want to, in massage, everything moves toward the heart. So we'll just start out here with toes. And here I get from the toenail just right down, that whole little toe. And when I work the top of the foot, I oftentimes will do a little stretch, like a little traction feel. But again, it's not really pulling the bones. It's pulling that soft tissue, that nylon fascial stuff that's all over the body. And so it's a pull. It's a very delicate pull. It's one that once you find it, you'll feel it, and it'll be different, and you'll know it from then on. It's very hard to explain exactly what happens in that. Okay, and then range of motion. Well, we'll do a little foot work here with the toes, because you can bend the foot this way as much as possible. And again, some people have extremely tight feet, and that does bring some concern to me, because I know that when the foot is not working real well, it can also work against the position of the knee and the hip and even the low back. We're a machine, a structure that's really quite balanced, and if we don't have the fulcrums balanced on each joint, we're going to run into some problems. They may not seem real bad at first, but they do bring in discomfort as we continue to develop muscles on a not so straight of structure. Up into the ankles, and then you can rotate the ankles. If their toes are flexible, you can go between the toes with your fingers, or you can go with all of your fingers between the toes, as much as you can get them between there. This is what those toe separators look like, and it does help to align the feet. And so, but this is a real good foot to be able to be worked this flexible. And a lot of that better foot action is from walking on uneven surfaces barefooted. If you can, try to get out in the grass at least, out on a lawn or something, barefoot. Don't do it on rocks or gravel. Okay, so now that we're done with this ankle, getting between and feeling the flexibility in the directions, we're going to go up the side of the shin bone is right along here. And you don't want to work on that bone, but you want to work beside that bone. So you're going to come up along that attachment point there, giving just enough pressure to where the muscle is opening up, but not too much pressure to where you're forcing yourself in. Then you move a little farther to the side, get more in the meatier part of that lateral muscle, and then farther to the side. Coming up, now we're in this calf muscle here, so you're going to have your thumbs come along the shin and pick up the gastrocnemius muscle from behind and just work it that way. Give it a little kneading. Keep it working. That's it. Bring it that way. And then the same thing going back up. It's more of a cross fiber kneading. And then you can work the whole leg. Then coming to the side with the thumbs, it's a pushward downward from the bone all the way down to the table, similar to what we did on the iliotibial track. It's a nice cross fiber. That part of the calf is very much supportive of the ankle. It needs to be stronger because the tendency is to sickle a foot in, and we need stronger muscles on the outside to be able to hold that leg in a non-sickled position. Sickling will weaken the outside muscles, and it's easier to sprain your ankle if you're running along, and you'll usually fall that way. If you're stronger, if you do happen to go in that position, you may have the muscle power, if it's not too dramatic, to be able to pull you back up without any kind of sprain or strain in the ankle. Then again, we're starting at the iliotibial tract and thumb ironing up. And getting into the inner thigh. You don't want to go too high into the inner thigh, into the inguinal triangle. You want to stay below the inguinal triangle. Or if you're on it, very, very gently, take the center of these quads, knead that up. And then the iliotibial tract from this side, it's the same thing. Thumbs down, working up. Okay, big hands, big movements here. Around the knee. I like to check the movement of the patella to see if the kneecap is moving flexibly, which it's good to have it be in a fairly good loose position. When we start to get real static in the body, real immobile in the body, that's where we're going to run into more problems. We're going to get stiffer, our joints are going to have more pain, and as we grow older, the joints are at risk anyway, so we want to do what we can to maintain the best possible posture, the fulcrums of these joints, and the development of the muscles on those joints so that we don't develop in a position that's going to cause strain on any joint or muscle group. Okay, so that's about what we can do for this leg. We can do a little range of motion as well, where this is being bent up, and you can just bend the leg in, taking it up, and keep it covered, and pulling that leg in. You can rotate it around and the other way. You can stretch it outward and inward, and you can also make some rotations with it. So that just gives you a little idea. You can create a bigger stretch by pulling the leg up and pushing farther into it, but again, you want to be careful. Not everybody is real flexible here, so you want to be careful with that. So that gives you an idea of some other things you can do with range of motion. And this is a light sweep down. It's not pushing blood. And then going to the other side, same thing. Start with putting some oil on. Up a little bit here. See a little higher on the leg. Okay, back down to the foot. Now as I'm doing this, I'm giving that little traction. And the little toe, here we go. Up. And between the toes is always nice too. Sometimes you can pull on a toe with a little traction as you do that. Sometimes I've had work done where people have yanked on my toes and tried to pop them, and I don't really like that. So I don't do that to people because I don't like it. It's too abrupt and it's a little bit too aggressive. And if you know how to do that properly, I say, and you like to do it and people like it, go for it. But just be mindful that it is a little bit more aggressive. You can bend toes backward and forward and around in circles and going between the toes with one finger or getting all your fingers in between into that toe separator position and hold those toes and work it from the ball of the foot, working that around. Stretching, you can bend back. And again, as the therapist, you're working on this, you want to make sure that you're paying attention to any resistance that comes, because if it starts to resist, you want to back off, soften that muscle, put a little traction on it, and let some of that fascia unwind, and then you'll find with the proper technique, you can take it into a deeper position. But that's a little bit more advanced, and I am going to be sharing some of that in the future. Okay, moving up to the ankle. And here we go, right up the side of that leg. I'll do it 3 or more times because sometimes the muscles are a little tighter, so I do at least 3 times, and then now we're coming right up the bone on the inside, and then reaching up to get the calf. From picking up from underneath, so you can see a little bit what it looks like on this side, and both hands should be working. I do have to go into a little different position again as that camera angles. I want to be sure that I can get you all to see what's going on. Then we're back down low at the lateral side of the calf, and thumbs are going to work down. Now normally I have both thumbs on. Maybe I can get them. Both thumbs on here to just push that open. It's a cross fiber. It's very nice. And you oftentimes will notice after doing this that the muscle feels like it's ironing out much better after that little cross fiber work. Up and around the knee. You can check for the patella here to see how well it moves, rotates. Many people have hardly any motion to this patella, but you want to try to get it as movable as possible, as mobile as you can. Sometimes I imagine like I'm hearing like it detached like Velcro, although it's not really doing that, but it feels that way. It doesn't really sound that way, but it does kind of feel that way sometimes on these real tight kneecaps. And we are going to come up. Lots of attachments right in that inner area right here. So let's bring that up, getting into that inner thigh. Not into the inguinal triangle. You can come up along here into the quad. Working it like so, then come to the center of the quad and working, kneading that. In the kneading action, you can go the thumb iron up. It's really working that muscle until you feel the softness in it and paying attention to what you're doing. And now we're going to go along that iliotibial tract, going cross fiber and move one thumb length all the way up. Till you get to the top. And then just check it all. Is that okay? Yeah. Check it all out. I know you're doing fine. Joy does have a little bit of tension here. Her work is, she's quite athletic and there's a little bit of tension. But it's not anything real bad. It's working out. It's relaxing out. When that happens, when there is tension like that, the tendency is for the muscle to tense up when you're coming into the work. And that's because it's going to protect itself. So there's like an automatic response. That's another reason why, especially if there's tension going in, don't go in too quickly, because you will get that reflex of it's protecting it, and it will tend to tense up in anticipation to something hurting. So the slower, even if you have to go into it very, very, very slowly, and if it seems like it's pushing back on you, just stop and wait for a little while. And you'll feel some rumbling there. We just had some relaxing. And then go a little bit farther where here's a tension point right there. There's a knot right under my finger. So this is stuff that I do, more advanced work that I do, that is a little more beyond just the relaxation muscle work. And this is a real important part to the work to get this explained. And as I have mentioned, I am planning to bring that forward. Now this feels completely different now that I took the time, noticing that there was a reflex going up slower. Her muscles were able to relax. Her muscles trust that they're not going to be hurt. And so they're relaxing out very well. And taking the time and going a little slower at the work when they're that tense has also been a part of getting that muscle to relax out. Okay, and then of course we can do the range of motion. Just a little range up. And you can circle it. You can cross it over. There's deeper work with this, much deeper range of motion that I'll be showing in the more advanced tapes. Okay, so now we're back down here at the feet. And when I do cranial work and I'm working on the SI area and the alignment of the sacrum, this is more evident if there's been an opening. And Joy was not real tight. She still is a little tight in her back on the right side, but it's not frozen down. It's just a little tighter, and it's probably because she's had some tension in her quadriceps that have been relating up into the back through possibly the psoas muscle. Getting into it with cranial work and working on that sacrum and opening the SI joint and allowing the fulcrum to fall back in the sacral area with L5 is where you see the biggest difference in the way that the legs will pick up, particularly when people are real tight. And some people are so tight that it's like you can hardly lift them this much. Don't force anything. That's the key to having a real successful practice is don't force the work. Figure out how to get it done efficiently, because that's what people really need, is the efficient work. And it does take time to develop that. So there we have the legs on the front part. Kneecaps are all wiggling. Muscles feel soft. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for subscribing. And I think there's a little bell up there that you can hit that you'll get a notification every time we post. So if you want to, you can hit that too. But thank you so much for your support. I really appreciate it.